Hello, welcome to Ray-ality TV. I'm Raymond Bakari. Today I'm joined by the Mayor of Central Falls, Mayor Maria Rivera. Mayor Rivera, how are you today?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for this opportunity, Raymond.
Thanks for coming on. It's good to have you on the show. Starting off with my first question here, it's been a little over a year since you first became Mayor of Central Falls. Is there anything that surprised you the most about the job so far?
There are many surprises. I think the biggest surprise for me is not being able to please everybody. I'm a people pleaser, right? This is why I ran for this position, because I'm a public servant and I want to please everyone. It's hard because I can't please everyone. No matter how good I try to do things, how hard I try to work, I can't please everybody. That has probably been one of my biggest challenges.
And you became mayor at a time when there are a lot of issues, not only facing our municipalities, but the state as a whole, like the pushes to reimagine public safety, rebuilding our economy, and getting the vaccine out to people so we can combat the coronavirus. What have been the biggest challenges you've faced in your first year as mayor, and how have you tried to overcome them?
Yeah, definitely the pandemic. Central Falls was the hardest hit community. We had the highest rate of infections, the highest rate of hospitalizations here in Central Falls. That was a challenge in itself. How do I address these issues coming into office in the middle of a pandemic when this is not something you're trained for? When you run for office, you focus on all the positive and all the good things you want to do for the community. But do we really think, what do we do if there's a pandemic, right? How are we going to address these issues? So I had to take it upon myself coming into office and just working with my team and hosting vaccine clinics. We had weekly vaccine clinics. We would work Monday through Friday and host vaccine clinics Saturday and Sunday, just trying to get as many people vaccinated here in the city. Then we had, the testing and the testing sites here in the city. We're still working with vaccines. We're still working with the testing sites. We're trying to get as many residents boosted. Challenges with that, I'd have to say that we live in a community where there's a lot of fear. I have a large community of undocumented residents who don't trust elected officials, who don't trust the system, which is why I had to take it upon myself and make sure that they heard from me directly, going door to door, posting on social media, sending out newsletters, so that the residents could hear from me directly about what was it that I was trying to do and why I wanted to help them.
Now looking at the issues facing the state that you have addressed so far as mayor in terms of Central Falls, public safety is a big one. Some on the left are calling for defunding the police and in some cases even abolishing the police. Then there are calls for police reform and more community policing. It's a hot button issue overall. I know one of your focuses has been improving the relationship between the police and the community in the city. And what ways have you attempted to achieve that goal so far?
So when I came into office, one of the changes I did was I brought in a new colonel into the police department because I needed to make sure that I had a trusting relationship with the chief of police or the colonel in the position. I needed to make sure that I could communicate with the colonel in the position and that the colonel could also trust me and communicate with me and also share the same vision that I have for the community. Do I believe in defunding? Not for the city of Central Falls. I don't think that's a solution because we need our police department to help us in our city. So it's about working with the police department. I have to tell you, this past year, the relationship that I have with the police department has been a relationship of trust, of working with the residents of the city. I have officers who are walking the streets, just talking to residents. We have officers who attend all of our events here. We had an event in the summer where I had a large amount of the police department there just communicating with the residents. So this is about us working together and working with the residents of the city and making sure that we instill the trust, right? There's a lot that was happening, the George Floyd and the Breonna Taylors, those situations. That's something that I didn't want to see happen here. And if I didn't take it upon myself to make sure I had a good working relationship with the colonel of the city, things would not be where they are right now. Colonel Robert Robertson has done an amazing job. He is out there talking to residents. He is out there communicating with residents. We're listening to the residents. What are the issues? What are the needs? What is it something you don't agree with so that we can address it, which is what I was trying to look for. And this is what we've been doing. Central Falls has been the only department that's been trained in nonviolence. We're looking to train the department also in domestic violence because domestic violence calls have increased with COVID a lot. So just trying to give the officers the resources that they need so that they're better for our communities and for our communities to be able to trust them.
Community policing also comes up in this discussion, and what you were talking about earlier with like the police walking the streets and attending the events sounds like that. Is it fair to say you're in favor of community policing?
Absolutely. So we have previously community policing consisted of like 4 officers here in the city. It doesn't help to have 4 officers who attend every event. And these are the only 4 officers that the community knows, right? That they have close relationship with. Community policing consists of the whole department. I shouldn't just have 4 officers walking the streets, meeting the residents. It should be everybody in the department. Our residents need to feel comfortable with everybody who works in the police department, not just with a few officers.
Housing is another big issue in Rhode Island that will be a key one where to see where elected officials stand on it come election time. There are a few ways to go about addressing the issue and providing more affordable housing for Rhode Islanders. Some of those watching may not be from Central Falls and may not know what your vision is when it comes to addressing the issue of housing. What are your plans when it comes to addressing the issue of housing in Central Falls?
Housing is one of my priorities through this pandemic. It has just opened my eyes even more about the need here in Central Falls. We were asking the residents to do something through this pandemic that they couldn't do, which was isolate. Because I have 2 and 3 families living in one apartment because of lack of housing stock here in the city. The other thing, the lead rate has increased by 50%, which says a lot about the old housing stock in Central Falls, an issue that needs to be addressed. Last year in March, I took it upon myself to host a housing summit just to hear from the residents of the city, to hear from the different organizations about what the real issues are with housing. So we heard from domestic violence, the Domestic Violence Advocacy Center. We heard from the Housing Authority. We heard from landlords. We heard from tenants. We heard from the school district about having homeless students, sleeping in cars. Just trying to like share some visibility of what the real issues are. From that housing summit, I have to thank United Way of Rhode Island and the Rhode Island Latino Policy Institute, who partnered up with me to host the summit. From that housing summit, we drafted a housing report. That housing report talks about all of the challenges in Central Falls and what the recommendations are. And we have identified about 12 properties in Central Falls that if we could convert these properties into housing, we'll have like another 200 apartments here in the city that are going to help the residents of the city. Housing is a need for many different reasons. It's a conversation that happens year after year. We start talking about homelessness when it starts getting cold. That shouldn't happen, which is why I took it upon myself to have the housing summit, the housing report, and a plan. So I have a plan I can present. I'm not just talking about the issue. And I'm hoping that we can convert some of these properties. I'm working with the governor's office. I'm working with the Secretary of Commerce. I'm working with Rhode Island Housing. We have identified these properties and we're trying to get the funding that we need to acquire these properties and start working on these properties and convert them into more affordable housing here in the city.
Looking at the issue of education for a moment, the voters in the city approved a bond to have millions of dollars go toward a brand new high school and repair the school buildings that are in rough shape right now. To my understanding, the state is going to pay for a lot of the costs too, while the city approved bond is roughly 2% of the bill, equaling to about $5 million. This is a major accomplishment and will benefit the city without a doubt. Can you explain more about this initiative and how you see this helping the city?
Yes, absolutely. This is probably one of my biggest accomplishments last year. Talking about a new high school has been a conversation for over 5 years. I graduated from Central Falls High School in 1995. The school needed major improvements at that time. I was sworn in as the council president. Sitting on stage, there's debris falling from the ceiling. At the walls, the floors, there's just so many different issues, the heating system, it's just not safe for our students. How can we expect our students to learn if we're not giving them the resources that they need, right? And they're not in a comfortable, safe setting, which is why I focused last year on working with the Treasurer Seth Magaziner and with the General Assembly to get this legislation passed. And thankfully it passed. The voters voted and it passed, which means that we will be getting a new high school in Central Falls. I'm hoping that that's going to be sometime in 2025. Groundbreaking should happen next year. There's a lot of work that goes into this because I'm not trying to get a new high school in the city just because we need a new building. This also consists of what we want as part of this new high school, right? What career tech programs do we need? Do we want to add some community space? Is it going to be 7th through 12th grade? Is it going to be 9th through 12th? So there's a lot of planning behind this. I have a great team who's doing the work. We have a great OPM who's helping with the whole process. And it's going to take time, but I can't wait for this, for the high school for us to do the ribbon cutting for the high school. And I'm sure our students are going to be really happy, and our students deserve to have a new high school. The high school we have here in the city is 93 years old. And they deserve to have a new high school, a new state-of-the-art high school with all of the tools that they need.
On the topic of education, charter schools also comes up in the dialogue of this issue. I know you served on the board of a couple of charter schools, Noel Leadership Academy for Parenting and Pregnant Teens, and the Learning Community Charter School. That was before your time as mayor. Where do you stand on the expansion of charter schools?
I truly believe in charter schools. Both of my children, I have 2 children, and both of my children attended charter schools. I truly believe in charter schools as much as I believe in the public school system here. As parents, we should have a choice. If we want to send our children to a charter school, if we want to send them to a public school. I serve on 2 more charter school boards because I believe in them so much. I think we should start having conversations about how we can partner up, like the public school district with charter schools, and learn from each other. Like if the charter schools are progressing in math and the public school district is progressing in another subject, why don't we work together and figure out what the issues are and try to help our students? Ultimately, this is not about me. This is not about the directors running the charter schools. It's not about the superintendent. It comes down to our students and what can we do to help our students progress.
My final question is one that I ask everyone on the show to keep tradition, and that is, in your opinion, what do you think Rhode Island is best known for?
Ooh, our food. And I'm probably, I'd have to say our food, because Central Falls also has tons of great restaurants here in the city. We have a huge amount of restaurants. They're diverse. We can eat food from practically any part of the world. Like if you want Italian food, if you want Mexican food, if you want Puerto Rican, Dominican, Guatemalan, Greek food, you can find it here in Rhode Island.
That's good to know. I haven't been to Central Falls personally yet, but I'll definitely swing by the city sometime and take a look at the great restaurants there.
You'll have to come because we have Peruvian, we have Mexican, we have Guatemalan, we have Honduran, we have Chinese food, we have all types of choices here, Portuguese, Cape Verdean. I'm sure you're going to find a great restaurant here in the city.
Do you have a specific go-to that you would recommend for like a first-time visitor of the city?
You're putting me on the spot. Because my business owners are probably going to be paying attention. Let's see who she's saying. But I go to all of our restaurants because I love to support our small businesses here. Our businesses were really impacted throughout COVID. I don't think I've sat in my house to have dinner in a year because I eat out so much at the different restaurants here. They're all great and they're all different, right? So if you want Peruvian food, I'll tell you where to go. If you want Mexican food, I can give you a few choices because we have a few Mexican restaurants here. The same with Colombian. So you can give me a call and I'll give you some recommendations, but you're not going to put me on the spot here. We have great choices here. So I can guarantee you that no matter what restaurant you come here in the city, you're going to be happy.
No worries. I'll definitely send a message. I'll send an email over when I visit the city. Mayor Rivera, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been an absolute pleasure of mine to have you on.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity, Raymond.
And thank you for watching this episode of Ray-ality TV. If you want to see future episodes on this channel or the Anchor TV Rick channel, please click the subscribe button and the post notification bell icons down below. I'm Raymond Bakari, and I'll see you on the next episode.